Hello and welcome to the Daily Grind here on Latte Firm. It is Thursday, the 17th of July. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Phil, can you hear me?
I can hear you, mate.
Awesome. The music went quiet and I didn't know if this was live, but we are live and welcome to the show. Thanks for waiting so patiently. Tonight, a very different type of show. We're going to talk about squad building and I'm going to get Phil, our gracious guest, host of the Football Vision podcast, regular panelist on the Arsenal Vision podcast, to give your thoughts on the value and the impact that you think some of our new signings might have. But listen, a very unusual introduction there. I thought I sort of lost my sound, but welcome, Phil, to the firm, your debut on Latte Firm. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. It is my debut, but it's been a long time coming because I feel like we always have a little DM here and there to try and get me on, and then for whatever reason it doesn't work, and I'm not there or you're not around. So I'm glad we finally managed to make it happen because I think you've done a really good job here actually to kind of build something from nothing. But also having done Euro daily pods last year, I understand how difficult it is to keep things going daily. So all props to you, FK. All props.
Thank you, Phil, man. I really appreciate it. And of course, you're part of the Arseblog family as well. So all of your kind words means a great deal to me. And these daily grinds have been absolutely fantastic. And I might just start on that note. It's been 6 weeks now that we've been going, doing the daily grinds on this show. Record numbers, record views, a couple of thousand new subscribers in 6 weeks. Really grateful for everybody tuning in, for everybody sharing, watching, joining the chat, joining the debate, and of course, my wonderful guests. Phil, welcome to the show. A very warm welcome. Treat it like a conversation amongst friends, and I'm really looking forward to this. We've obviously talked at length, all Arsenal fans, over the last 6 weeks about the signings that we're making and whether they're going to be good players, bad players, whether they're raising the ceiling, raising the floor, adding value. Are we going to win the title? Is it going to move the needle? I want to go through each of those individuals and kind of get your thoughts as to what sort of role they might play next season, if any, what sort of value they might bring to the squad, and what sort of, if there's soft stuff also that they could bring in terms of value to the squad. So we're going to go through that. I will take comments from the chat as we go along. Please do bear with me. There's hundreds of you watching already live on YouTube. Please do drop a like in the video, subscribe to the channel, and all that sort of stuff. But first question, Phil, how are you feeling about this window? It's been sort of halfway now. We've got another 5.5 weeks to go. The season is creeping up on us with our tour of Asia starting this very weekend. How's it all going?
I think so far so good. I mean, obviously we had a bit of a slow start because I think the Club World Cup teams such as Chelsea, such as City, even Liverpool had a quick start. I know they're not in the Club World Cup, but a lot of the teams moved quickly. And maybe Arsenal fans were a bit like, are we going to do something at some point? But I think it's quite clear that we always had plans to do a lot of work this summer. The squad needed a lot of work in terms of not only starting 11 quality, but depth as well, which I'm sure we'll get into. But yeah, so far so good. Really, I know there's still a few announcements pending, and I'm expecting those to happen over the next few days, maybe five to 7 days. But I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling good, honestly. I think the club were in a difficult situation this year, not only with signings, but contract renewals as well. And I think of Gabriel signing up already, Lewis Skelly signing up already. Obviously, Ethan's about to follow. I know we've got the two big ones, Saka and Saliba coming up. But let's see. Hopefully, if we do our work this summer, there should be a kind of an ease at which we can go into those negotiations and say, look, we've done our work. Do you want to be here or not? And I think they will be. But overall, I'm quite happy, even if we haven't really gone Liverpool big on a Florian Wirtz, for example. I think we've done some good stuff. We're about to do some good stuff. And yeah, it's not easy, this transfer stuff. So I appreciate that Berta coming in has had a difficult job to do.
He has indeed, and he's made a flying start. Lots of activities you've just talked about. You're getting a lot of love in the chat, by the way. Calming Arsenal fans. They love you on the Arsenal Vision. Henke Ho saying, yeah, FK Phil, stars in the eyes for emojis. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you, Dave, for your kind words as well. Listen, we're going to take each position as we go along, and I'm with you. I think we've done some really important things. The exciting things are, I guess, yet to come, with the striker coming with Noli Madu and maybe a surprise, someone like Eberechi. And actually, you're right. You make a really salient point, Phil, around, City flew out the blocks before the Club World Cup. Man, Liverpool also did some early activity. They're flirting with the idea of Ekitike or potentially Isak. Not sure what's going on there, but big clubs making big moves. Let's focus on our boys. So first up to start with, and I'm going to get the chat involved by doing some polls online. I don't know if you've seen, Phil, the online video yesterday released by Arsenal.com on YouTube of a goalkeeping training session, or quite a lot of it. And
I did inside training. Yeah, I watched it.
series that they've got going on. What did you make of it? It was quite a nice insight into the drills that the keepers go through.
I think they do a lot of good stuff on the Arsenal media team. Actually, I really love the behind the scenes videos. I mean, obviously the Zubimendi one was really good, but I think the Christian Norgard video in particular really tugged on our heartstrings a little bit because he was obviously moved to tears when his little boy came in with the Arsenal kit, and it just shows you that even a 31-year-old Premier League footballer can feel really emotional about moving to Arsenal and really being at this level. So I think the Arsenal media team do a really great job, and I love the little finishing drills or the goalkeeping drills that we get into. And if Gabriel Jesus misses a chance, I'm there thinking, what's happened there? He's missed the one-on-one, and then Saka will put one top corner. So yeah, I really like it because I think especially now in the modern day, we're so far removed from anything close to the club. I mean, it would even 20 years ago when I was younger, we could have literally waited outside the stadium and gotten an autograph or a signature, but now it's so difficult. It's so different. And as a kind of journalist now, when I try and interview somebody, and they're not even like A-listers, it could be an academy player from Arsenal that I want to sit down with, and it's like, speak to this agent and this media person and this agency, and it's just like, Jesus Christ, lads, I'm just trying to sit down with someone. So yeah, I really like any sort of access we can get that we wouldn't normally get. So yeah, really good stuff.
It is really exciting, and you're absolutely spot on. Growing up, it was CFAX and teletext and club call, if you remember that, calling the premium numbers to learn about a Dutch striker that we might have been linked with at the time, and waiting to see the pictures in the newspapers. There's a lot of people wondering what the hell is FK talking about, but there we are. The goalkeeper situation, Kepa brought in from Chelsea, £5 million. Everyone assumes backup goalkeeper. He is a very distinguished keeper, Phil. He's won everything there is to win in the game. He's played for giant clubs, Real Madrid, Chelsea, of course, and Bournemouth last season, part of their record-breaking defence in the Premier League. What role do you expect Kepa to play? Is it as straightforward as saying, right, he's obviously number two, not really going to push David Raya, or could he potentially make a name for himself or a case for himself in our starting 11?
First of all, I'm really happy with the signing because I think the second choice goalkeeper has been an issue, an elephant in the room for a long time now. Obviously, we had Ramsdale when David Raya first came in, and then we had Neto last year, who might as well have been made out of chocolate. He was that useless, and we didn't use him. All of my lasting memory of him is being about 20 yards outside of his penalty area trying to save a shot in Girona. He obviously wasn't even eligible for the EFL Cup, so we had to play a literal child in goal for that Bolton game. Just a bit of a mess. And obviously we were trying for Joan Garcia for a long time, but then the figures kept rising and rising and rising. And we have to maybe sit down at that point and say, yes, we love this talent, but do we, or can we justify the fee? And I think in the end, the answer was no, but maybe we saw this Kepa opportunity, 5 million release clause, really experienced, has played in Europe as well for Real Madrid and Chelsea, played for Spain. So this is not some average Joe we're bringing in. This is like a really decorated, experienced goalkeeper who obviously just played a full season on loan at Bournemouth. So I'm not immediately thinking that David Raya's position is under threat or up for grabs, but I certainly don't think he's there to just sit around on the bench. He'll be there to provide genuine depth and competition, which is all we can ask for, I guess, considering where we've been over the last couple of years. So yeah, really happy with the deal, and I think we did it at a number where the overall transfer fee wouldn't have eaten too much into our budget because we've got quite a bit to do this year.
We do indeed. And listen, opinion is kind of mixed in the chat. There are one or two sort of saying, look, Kepa's going to push Raya. He could potentially, by the end of the season, maybe nudge our current goalkeeper out the way. But there are quite a few comments now coming through saying Raya is the undisputed number one, says D-Day Spring. Kepa will have his chance in the cup competitions. Having him will definitely keep Raya on his toes. Lots of people thinking it's great value, £5 million. Really, really good. Manny K says, watching the training video, you can see why Raya is above Kepa right now. That was my observation, Manny. I'm with you on that. He looks sharper, more agile, just more nimble, more mobile as a goalkeeper. David Raya is hot as a goalkeeper, and I absolutely love it. It's something that I never thought I would say. I was in love with Aaron Ramsdale. Really thought he was going to be, had such a nice sentimental attachment to him. And when we replaced him, I was like, what is Arteta doing? But there he is. He's moved the goalposts. So there we are. Good value. Kepa will be a solid backup. We'll probably play cup competitions, Phil. Is that what you think is going to happen? Domestic cups? Is he going to be our number one keeper?
I think, yeah, David Raya for me is still the number one, but also we saw some mental fatigue creeping into his game towards the end of last year. I think there were some passes that were either going astray or leaving people in trouble, as we saw in the Bernabeu, obviously. And I was there in the Madrid end watching that, so that wasn't a fun experience. But I I just think it's so important that we treat the first choice goalkeeper as any other player. You know, if we were playing Yuri Timber for 35 games in a row, we'd be worried about him. So I just think it's important to keep him fresh, but also just a feeling of competition. Some breathing on his neck will take him to another level. I think it's what you need as a sportsman at this level. You can't afford to be complacent or relaxed in your role. And I think Kepa, even if he's not coming in to challenge at number one immediately, he can certainly do it. So yeah, overall happy with the deal. I think the transfer fee was really good. His wages have dropped, so I don't think we could have done any better, to be honest.
I think you're spot on. And Mikel Arteta has shown he's bought lots of keepers or tried lots of keepers over the last few years. It's nice to have a little bit of stability. He's a good age, and hopefully he'll be here for a long time. I put to the watching viewers, the hundreds of you that are watching live right now, says, do you think Kepa has the minerals to be our number one at any point? 65% of you, 2/3 of you saying no. The vast majority thinking that David Raya will continue to be our number one. Let's move up the pitch, Phil, and let's talk about our defensive edition, which is also likely to happen very soon. Christian Muscera, and you can see there the sort of heat map from Opta Analyst. To my surprise, playing a lot of time at left centre back. I was under the impression that he was coming in to be the right-sided centre-back sort of depth for Saliba. So tell us about your thoughts on this player and what sort of role do you think this young chap could play next season?
Yeah, really interesting one. I mean, obviously, we did try for Dean Howson earlier on in the summer, who, again, a young defender, can play both sides. Maybe not a fullback, but I think he can play both central defensive sides very comfortably. He's good on his left foot, but the issue with him is that he would cost £50 million, which is, what we paid for Zubimendi, more or less. And we're expecting him to come in and start and revolutionize our midfield. So it's a heavy outlay. And look, the club might have believed in him. Maybe they know something about Saliba that we don't know, or whether it was just we need a third guy in who's maybe better than Kivior to come in. Either way, we would have had backup options, and Christian Muscera falls into that category for me. He's a young player, but I think it's important to say that he's not young in terms of what he's done on the pitch, because since he came into the Valencia side 2 years ago, he's played 70 of a possible 72 games. And not just played them, he's started them. So not only does that show he's been a consistent player in that back line, but he's been injury free. And also he's had to be a bit of a senior player in that back line. A lot of young players have come in. His initial partner was Gabriel Paulista, actually, who was formerly of Arsenal, a bit of a crazy one. We remember him, that sort of dead look in his eyes that was ready to kill anyone at any moment. So he's really come into the Valencia team. He's been a stable presence. I love his sort of aggression, tenacity. He gives me Rudiger vibes in terms of his stature. He's quite leggy, quick on the recovery run. He likes to be in players' shorts almost to try and get the ball off them. He's reading the play all the time. So yes, he needs work. He's only just turned 21. It's impossible to be the finished article at 21. I mean, we've even seen that in Saliba. So we love him, and he still needed work when he first came into the team. But he was a key player in Valencia. He was a key player in La Liga, often at the top for many metrics like ground duel success and tackles and interceptions. So I think the club have maybe seen him again, a bit like Kepa, as a bit of a market opportunity. He had 1 year left on his deal. I think RB Leipzig were sniffing around him, but there was a whisper in his ear from somebody at Arsenal, whether that was the sporting director or the manager or both. But he said the classic line, I only want to come to Arsenal, and that's where we are. So I think, again, we've done really well, and he's a player who we're spending very little on, like 13 million, that could potentially rise to 16. So even if it doesn't quite work out, there is an easy way out of this. He can go to Italy or Spain for 20 million and wish him well, and off we go. So I think it was important not only for depth and competition, but also we need to protect Saliba. We need to protect Yuri Timber and Ben White, who have played a huge amount of football over the last 2 years for various reasons. And yeah, we can't be a serious squad who are looking to compete on 4 fronts without a player like this. So he ticks a lot of the boxes for me. Are you happy with it?
I am. And listen, your last point is the most pertinent one for me, in my opinion. Saliba, we saw him miss the tail end of the season a couple of years ago. Gabriel Magalhaes last season. Tomiyasu, so sad to kind of see the club sort of part company with him, and wishing him all the very best, of course. And Ben White with the injury. We need depth, Phil. And we saw at the tail end of last season, even without Gabriel Magalhaes, Kivior came and did a good job. William Saliba, sort of that mental fatigue. Arsene Wenger once spoke about the, young defenders costing you points. They haven't quite got the mental stamina to go through long, enduring seasons. And so if we've got someone who knows how to play ball, if we've got someone who's aggressive, who's that recovery pace, you can see from that positional map, he does like to play, has lots of sort of touches and possession quite high up the pitch. And, people describe him in the chat as being a bit of a beast, physically very strong, very imposing, like you've just said, ever present for Valencia, Spanish, youth international, like very excited and value. I mean, 13-14 million pounds, depending on, who you follow on socials, with potential add-ons. This is a young guy who has been playing regularly, is, tipped to be a very, a future star in the game. The right age profile, because no one's really coming in to displace Saliba and Gabriel, but you got to keep them on their toes. You got to be there for backup, and it allows Arteta to rotate, and that's something that the gaffer needs to get better at. Adil says, very excited to watch this guy. Will give Saliba some well-needed rest at times. And yeah, looking at that heat map, he might play across the back four. Let's talk about midfield, Phil. We've added 2 options to our central midfield, and most people, I think, would be forgiven for suggesting that the trio on the right-hand side is going to be our starting trio: Zubimendi, Declan Rice, Martin Odegaard. First of all, thoughts on the Spanish metronome, and then lead me into the conversation about Norgard and the value that you think he might bring, because you did I think it was the Arsenal Vision podcast where you were asked about it, and you talked about some of the soft factors. So tell us, midfield options, what are your thoughts?
First of all, really happy with Zubimendi. I think a lot of people have tried, a lot of clubs have tried to get him out of Real Sociedad and failed, including Liverpool last year was the obvious one, but Real Madrid have tried, Barcelona have tried, we've tried, Man City looked at him as well. So this is a really coveted player, if that's the word. I mean, and I think if you're looking at some of those clubs who are the best of the best in terms of European football, they're not looking at him for no reason, right? This is somebody who maybe doesn't get you out of your chair, maybe doesn't jump out at you on FB ref, but for me, the appreciation of this player stems in his basics. This is a player's player. This is a manager's player who knows where to stand, who knows where to be. He can go over to support. He knows when to speed up the game. He knows when to slow it down. He's not afraid to take a pass through the lines. He can also turn away from pressure. I think if we're talking about a pure number 6, for me, he's one of the best in Europe. So I'm really, really excited to have him at the club. I think he's got an advantage to have not only Mikel Arteta at the club already, but Martin Odegaard and Mikel Merino, who he knows very well. There'll be a couple of other Spanish players who will know from the national team, like David Raya. So this is a really exciting one for me. I think we've needed a bit of surgery on our midfield for a while. Jorginho, I love the player. I'm just a bit sad we didn't get him a few years earlier, because I think you could see that his legs were going. I think he played 700 minutes, and that's not really enough for us in terms of what we need to compete on all fronts. Thomas Partey, obviously, we know what's happened off the pitch, but even on the pitch, I saw some issues creeping into his game, and I don't know if he would have entirely justified a new deal on similar terms or even improved terms. So quite happy to see the club move away from him, and I think the club have done really well to not only get Zubimendi in, but Christian Norgard as well, who are immediate replacements. I've long felt Norgard was quite underrated in the Premier League. Actually, he's one of those steady players who, again, won't amaze you with anything or split defenses or pass through the lines at every opportunity. But I think he's extremely physical. He's a bit of a leader. He's very vocal. And I just think we needed that kind of presence, obviously, with Jorginho leaving, with Partey leaving. That's a lot of Premier League experience and know-how leaving the club. So it will never be a bad thing for me to have someone in who can maybe take care of the guys behind the scenes, keep standards high. I think Per Mertesacker was famous for for taking the fines at Arsenal. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see Norgard step into that role and keep everybody on their toes in terms of how they're acting behind the scenes. And also, he's just a really good player. He played 35 times for Brentford last year. Even though he's 31, he covers a lot of ground, does a lot of defensive work. So I'm really happy with both deals. I think 12 million for Norgard is super value. I think we've done really well with Zubimendi as well. So I'm really happy to see how we can kind of not only adapt, but move forward with a bit more of a modern midfield, if that makes sense.
Lots of people very excited about seeing Zubimendi, and rightly so. D-Day Spring says Zubimendi is going to take our midfield to the next level. I see him in the mould of a younger Jorginho who controls the tempo of the match, and we're getting him in his prime as well. I mean, just on the Norgard thing, I said it on a show a couple of nights ago. For me, he raises the floor of the midfield, and that's not a bad place to be, because we had Jorginho, we had El Neni, we weren't getting much game time from them. He's ever present, physically very fit. You know, you describe him as a bit of a leader. He absolutely is. You know, captain of Brentford. Thomas Frank has spoken about his tactical intelligence, and you mentioned at the start of the show the sort of the wholesome nature of how excited he is to be here. This is it's a late move for someone who's coming towards the end of his Premier League career to have a chance to play for the biggest honours. What I would describe the biggest club in the world. Is phenomenal. And what I really like about Norgard is that Zubimendi's obviously going to come in and take a bit of time to get used to the pace of the Premier League. We saw Mikel Merino struggle with that at the start. He's getting into it. Zubimendi, I think, is a much better player, but I think in Norgard you've got someone ready. He knows what the Premier League is about. If we go into Old Trafford on that first match day, Zubimendi's not quite ready. Like, there is no problem with playing Norgard. This is a Premier League proven captain. He's probably gone to Old Trafford and won there, given everyone's sort of won there over the last couple of years. There you go. So like, this is a really smart move. And I think the frustration came from, like, he was one of our earlier signings in the window, unexpected, an older player. I think the oldest player in the squad now. And it's,
could be,
he or Kepa. I think him. And I get it. He wasn't the marquee signing that everyone wanted, but it's a really sensible move, and it's one that we had to do, Phil. We've got holes in midfield. We've let Partey go. Jorginho has retired. El Neni we didn't really ever replace. And we're just short in midfield. So it's really smart, in my opinion. Just want to go back to the Christian Muscera poll. I asked everybody on YouTube that are watching right now, and there are hundreds of you. Please do like the video, subscribe if you like this content, and give Phil a follow on socials. How many starts do you think Muscera will make next season in all competitions? And the options were 0 to 9, 10 to 14, 15 to 19, 20 plus. The vast majority of people going for 10 to 14 appearances. So maybe a few appearances in the league, maybe a few appearances in cups, maybe the earlier stages of the Champions League. Who knows? That'll be very, very interesting. DJ D10 says, yep, exactly the order of things contributed to the thoughts. Henke Hossein Norgard is an underrated class player. I think it's going to be really important to have him around. And the fact that he's older, the fact that he's a bit of a leader, I think it's going to be a good influence in the squad as well. Phil, let's talk about our gunman. He is coming, apparently. Oh, no. Let's talk about Noli Madu. How can I forget so many signings? I was
going to say, the slides were maybe not in conjunction with what you were saying there.
So many signings. That's so difficult to keep up. What I'm trying to say here is two things. Let's not sleep on Noli Madu, because I think he could be quite a talented player. I had James Benge on last night, who wrote an article for CBS Sport about how he thinks Chelsea are making a mistake selling him. He thinks he's a vastly talented player. When you look at some of the stats that stand out to him, this courtesy of Football Econ on socials, he's compared him to Mohamed Kudus, because I think, as an out-and-out wide player, there are comparisons to make. But Noli Madueke, ball carrying, carries into the box, shooting on sight. I mean, these are some of the qualities that he's going to bring. The title of the slide, Evolution, I did a show a few days ago where I talked about how Rafinha, someone that Mikel Arteta liked so much, has moved over from the right side to the left side. What are you expecting from Noni? Is this potentially the answer to our left-sided problem, as well as being a backup for Bukayo?
Yeah, an interesting one. It's grown on me a little bit, because when I first saw the links, I was a bit like, really? And I think a lot of Chelsea fatigue sort of came into my thinking with that, because we've had a pretty mixed record going to them, and we've done it a lot recently as well. So it was just like, can we please stop giving them money, please? Especially when you know that they need a certain amount of money to get away from financial troubles and all of this stuff. And we've just given them basically all the money that they've needed. But I think when it comes to Madueke, I think about what we tried to sign or who we tried to sign earlier this window in Leroy Sané, who's a very upright, pacey winger who can play both sides and likes to take shots. And what have we signed in Madueke? Basically all of the above. So I have it on pretty good authority that Mikel pushed for this signing. And that's an interesting one to me, because he's obviously seen something in him, a quality. And you're absolutely right to sort of highlight the numbers about his progressive carries, the carries into the box. I think he took more shots than any other winger per 90 last year in the Premier League. So that just shows you he's really not shy of doing that and taking control of situations. For me, this is somebody who can bring a bit of unpredictability, a bit of chaos factor to the team, because I think at some points we're a bit Goldilocks in terms of us needing to be just right. The porridge has to be just right to take a shot, on our preferred foot in space. Whereas Madueke will just be like, right, I've made a yard, I'm going to hit one, or I'm going to go to the byline and cross it. And I think at some point you need somebody like that who can just provoke people. I think his first thought when he gets the ball is to go, either to run at somebody or run in behind. He likes that little half space between the centre back and full back. So whether he's playing on the left or right, he can offer us some different things, a lot of pace. And ultimately, the bar is Raheem Sterling. So you'd have to be pretty bad to not be a single improvement upon what Raheem Sterling gave us last year. And that's no disrespect to him. He's had an incredible career, but he was useless, right? We didn't want to use him. And I think that was quite evident towards the end of the year, where we had options to bring him on. And Mikel Arteta was just like, I don't see him on the bench. I don't see him on the bench. So yeah, the price sounds heavy, but ultimately I just think it's what you pay now for a young-ish Premier League winner. I look at Kudus, I look at Elanga, I look at Mateus Cunha, I look at Brian Mbeumo. All of these players are going for more or less the same, and I think even Madueke,
if not more, more. Phil, sorry to interrupt. I mean, I saw today Brian Mbeumo, he's gone up to 60 million plus.
Yeah, Brentford have had United's pants downs there, and they can't back out of it now because of the optics of what that would present to their fans. So I just think as well, going back to Madueke, his wages are low, right? I mean, I don't think he's going to be on the same wage at Chelsea as I think it was 50,000 per week.
Right. Yep.
I would be amazed if that didn't double, but that's Reece Nelson money. So even then, if we sell Reece this summer, it's not a huge amount. So I think the club have maybe banked on a bit of potential. They've gambled on something they've seen. I don't think he's going to displace Bukayo, but I think he can give us some much needed depth in that area, and also maybe something different on the left in terms of going to the byline, shots from a different angle, a natural crosser on his left foot, for example, whereas Martinelli and Trossard like to come inside. So it's I think he arrives with more questions than answers, but I'm entirely open to being proven wrong, because I think everybody deserves that chance. And look, if he bags at Old Trafford on match day 1, we're going to be forgetting all of this. So we're fickle, man. So I think we just need to let him settle, give him a chance to play for Arsenal, and hopefully he can do the business for us. I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it.
There's a lot of people that are actually quite excited coming around to the idea of Noni, but of course it does split opinion. Shaq saying, if Noni is the answer, I don't want to ask the question. He's just not good enough, and his decision making is terrible. Listen, he's 23 years old. He's a young boy. He's only played 67 times in the Premier League. He's been capped for England. He's had a very unorthodox career, born in Barnet, raised at Spurs, left for PSV, like has come back. Oh, yeah, well, there you go. Were you raised at Spurs, were you? Or
no, born in Barnet, Chase Farm Hospital. Born in Barnet,
there you go.
That's where it's at.
There you go. But he's coming in now, and he's going to have a bit of a point to prove. And listen, let's not as much as galling as it is to buy players from Chelsea and to help them, get out of their UEFA fines or buy other shiny new toys. You can't be a mug and break through into a Chelsea team and for England when Chelsea are stockpiled with some of the, some really hot talent, so much talent over the years. There's got to be something about him. And Mikel Arteta, we know, has been useful with coaching wide players in his time. I'm hoping for the best, absolutely hoping for the best. And listen, in terms of style of play, we, I think, were ranked second for having the most game time in a draw situation. last season. I don't know who were top, but that to me suggests that we need
Probably like
something
Everton
different.
or someone like that. Yeah.
Probably, yeah. But we need something different, right, Phil? We need someone who
Yeah.
wants to try and take players on, try and shoot on sight, try and get into the box into dangerous positions and cause a bit of chaos. And if it's an option off the bench, if it is a starter on the left-hand side, or if Bukayo Saka, he's not quite up to his full self, then it's not a bad option to have. I think it's going to be a good signing. I really want it to be a good one.
I will say Magnus Nissen makes a good point in the chat, and he says, if we get Eze, it's decent, but it's not good enough if Madueke and Yockarez are the only forward signings. And I absolutely agree with that. If it's just those two coming in, I would be a little bit concerned about how much we've actually improved our options. Whereas I think we just need another player, whether that's an Eze, a Rodrigo, another player altogether, just to supplement the attack a little bit more. Because I think with those two alone, I would feel slightly concerned that we'll fall short again. But I think in terms of what we need from Madueke, which is depth, competition, support, a bit of chaos factor, he ticks those boxes for me, and I'm ready to be proven wrong if I have doubts about the fee that we spent or his overall ceiling, for example.
Here. Let's move on to the gunman. Hopefully this is the right slide. It is our new gunman. Reports of a medical tomorrow. Maybe he will be at the club this weekend. Who knows? But the player himself, and this is the shot map courtesy of Opta Analyst, he is a proven goal scorer, Phil. And we have talked, and you have talked on the Arsenal Vision, Football Vision, I'm sure, and with your writing at Arseblog. He has the raw traits of a player that we need. He has speed, he has power, he has ball striking. Are you excited about Victor Yockarez? And lead me to the conversation around who would end up being our number 9. I mean, is he going to displace Kai Havertz, play alongside Kai Havertz, be understudy to Kai Havertz? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, look, we've been so starved of any centre forward signings or winger signings that you have to be excited by it, right? I think especially when it's someone like Yockarez who's coming in with a big record, a proven level of output. He's got some aura about him. He's got the celebration. I can imagine Chris, 53 years old from East Finchley, doing that at the Emirates next season. We're all going to look like idiots.
I can't wait. FK, 43 years old from Woodford. I'll be doing it.
There's going to be some memes going around, I'm sure. But it's exciting, right? Because these are the guys who can take us to the promised land. We can talk about our defensive record as much as we want, but when a centre forward comes in who scored 97 goals in 102 games, how can you not be excited by that? And I personally was quite excited by the sort of the links to Benjamin Šeško, what he could bring to the team. I thought he was quite similar to Kai Havertz in what he brings us as a big focal point up front. He's got the technique, he's got the build up, but he can also whack a ball really hard, and he's also really good in the air. So I saw a lot of parallels in him and Kai Havertz. But then I spoke to Clive, obviously the pod master, the pod father, Uncle Clive, and he kind of convinced me a little bit about Yockarez and said, maybe we don't need someone that's similar to Havertz. Maybe we just need someone a bit different. And I think in terms of Yockarez, his game might be a bit raw, not so polished in other areas, but there is such a single-mindedness to score goals and a mentality to score goals that I think we've lacked at Arsenal for years now, maybe since Aubameyang left. So I just think you can't underestimate someone who is desperate to score goals, because that's the mentality that you need in an elite team who want to achieve things. So overall, I think it's really encouraging. I think we've actually done really well with the price, considering what he was being touted around for, not only last summer, but even earlier this summer. There was 100 million, 80 million, and I think we've got it down to about 65 plus add-ons. So that's fine for me. It's what you pay for any decent centre forward worth their salt now. I mean, nobody's cheap anymore. So it just feels like this is his moment, and he knows it. And that desire to play for Arsenal, that ability to capture the moment. He's a bit of a bully as well, which I can appreciate up front against some big, hard Premier League defenders. And I'm really curious to see how he gets on, because I think there are flaws in his game. I do worry a little bit about the quality of the Portuguese league. Some of those teams are just awful, and he's banging 3 or 4 goals in against them every week. But he's done his job in the Champions League. He's obviously scored against City, scored against other teams, and I'm hoping that with better players around him, with more service, he can really do the business. Because let's be honest, if he scores 10 goals in the Premier League, I'm happy with that. I know most people won't be, but that's 10 more goals than we had last year. So
well, it's a player who actually scored 10 goals in the Premier League.
yeah,
That was last year.
nobody did that
It was
last
9,
year.
wasn't it? Kai, exactly. First time in 100 years. Yeah. I've just put a poll out, and I want your answer on this, Phil, to the chat, which is by the end of the season, who will have started more games across all competitions, Victor Yockarez or Kai Havertz for Arsenal?
Oh, for me, it's Kai.
Really? So Kai is your number one?
If Havertz is fit, Arteta plays him, man. So
he does love him.
Just somebody. It's somebody that he likes, someone that he's drawn to. I think he gives us a lot tactically, physically. But I think we need to maybe move away from this idea of a starting 11, of a set team, because it's not possible in football anymore. When you're playing every game at 100% intensity, there's games in Europe, there's cup games. We could be playing 65, 70 games next year. So it doesn't really matter to me if he plays 55 games but only starts 25 of them, because we're going to need him. So I just think he brings us something different. He's a bit of a bully, a bit of a battering ram. I think he'll play a lot. Regardless of whether he's starting games. Potentially there's options for a strike partnership with Havertz. Maybe we could play Havertz in the 8 behind Yockarez. Could we even play him out on the left? I don't know. But either way, I think it's really exciting. And just that sort of aggression and desire and single-mindedness to score is really exciting to me, because only a few people have that. And I think it's happened in maybe the likes of Erling Haaland, Luis Suarez, these kind of people who are just like desperate to score. And when I watch him, he's desperate to score. So let's see, maybe he can come in and make an impact.
Maybe the crowd have gone against you, Phil. I'm disappointed to say. I asked the question, who's going to end up having more starts for Arsenal next season? 2/3 of the votes have gone to Victor Yockarez. By the way, just on Noli Madu, first of all, Tendo, thank you so much for your very generous donation to the channel. It's greatly appreciated. It says, for Madu, I just can't get over him fighting Palmer for a penalty, which kind of prompts me into thinking Victor Yockarez is a penalty machine. Bukayo Saka is our currently penalty taker. And it was Wayne, a good friend of mine, that we do a sort of Friday late night lounge. And we were talking around how every time Saka gets a penalty, we all in the stands get really nervous because he's our son and we don't want him to miss. And we just can't look sometimes, right? Would you change the penalty taker once Yockarez or even Madueke comes to Arsenal?
Well, I certainly wouldn't have Madueke on them. I agree about the Saka point. I think we're all scarred by that Euro final, and we never want to see him sad and upset again, because just that clip of him sort of crying into his shirt with Southgate around him was terrible. You know, especially because he played so well in that tournament. I do think sometimes his penalty technique is unconvincing, even though some of them hit the side netting. I think others don't really go in the corner enough, and Yockarez gives me real, and I'm sorry to say this name, but Van Persie vibes, because he just runs up to the ball, no stutters, no nonsense. He just whacks them into the corner. And I like that. It's my biggest Yada opinion in football. Like, just hit a penalty properly. And I think there's definitely a competition there to be had. I'm sure they'll do the rounds in training and test them both out under pressure. So whoever takes them, I'm happy with either. But it wouldn't surprise me at all to see Big Vic get his share as well.
I think so. El Perdedor, by the way, welcome to the show. So Saka has gifted them to Erdegaard before. Can't see Yockarez doing any of that. Well, look, I'm really interested to see how Victor settles in, and I can't wait for the new season film. I'm already looking forward to the tour, Singapore this weekend, and let's hope we get our signings over the line.
Can we? We can't.
I know, mate. Honestly, the break was really nice, and we've seen, Wimbledon come and go, and the test matches on, but nothing beats the Barclays. I can't wait for it. Listen, Phil, it's been a lot of fun tonight. We were going to do unpopular transfer opinion, but we've gone over time. We'll do that another time. But it's been really fantastic to have you on the show. Really appreciate it. Where can people find you? Talk to us about your podcast.
Yeah, they can find me on the Football Vision podcast. It's a podcast that I host. It's a lot more general stuff. So we could do a topic from Brazil one week, then it'll be France, and then it will be the depths of Nepal if there's an interesting story there. And it's a nice escape for Arsenal, or from Arsenal, sometimes, to do a bit more general stuff. But also I'm on Arseblog all the time. I'm on Arsenal Vision all the time. So I'm always around if people want to see me or hear me, basically.
Of course, and if you want to follow Phil on socials, _Phil Costa. Khan says, good evening, big up FK and Phil. Love his content and giving Elliot a hard time on the vision. Thoughts on shirt number for Noni and Yockarez? Well, look, that's for the club to decide. I am sure they're going to give them elite numbers. Listen, thank you, Phil. It's been really good fun. We will be back tomorrow, Friday night, late night lounge. We'll be back. We'll have a much deeper dive into everything that's happened with Arsenal, maybe a signing announcement tomorrow. Who knows? If you are watching for the first time, please do, of course, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, set your notifications on so you never miss a show. If you joined late and you prefer to listen to these on audio, check out your audio platforms, Spotify, Apple, etc. Leave us a very kind review if you'd like. And if you want ad-free content, and if you want to go into the hat for competitions, including match tickets, a pair of tickets for Arsenal versus Leeds next season, do go over to patreon.com and support the channel. Thank you so much. Enjoy yourselves. Stay warm. England 2-2 with Sweden. Let's go and catch the final stages of the women. See if they can manage to get through. Phil, thank you for your time. Chat, thank you for watching. Bye for now.